Dandavat Pranam. Namaste. All glories to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 7, Text 32. Prajopadravam alaksha loka vyati karham chatam vatam cha vasudevasya sanjahararjunodvayam. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons, as Lord Sri Krishna desired. Purport. The theory that the modern atomic bomb explosions can annihilate the world is a childish imagination. First of all, the atomic energy is not powerful enough to destroy the world. And secondly, ultimately, it all rests on the supreme will of the Supreme Lord, because without his will or sanction, nothing can be built up or destroyed. It is foolish also to think that natural laws are ultimately powerful. Material nature's laws works under the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad-Gita. The Lord says that the natural laws work under his supervision. The world can be destroyed only by the will of the Lord, and not by the whims of tiny politicians. Lord Sri Krishna desired that the weapons released by both Droṇa and Arjuna be withdrawn, and it was carried out by Arjuna at once. Similarly, there are many agents of the all-powerful Lord, and by his will only one can execute what he desires. Text 33. Tata asadya tarasa tarunam gautami sutam babandham arshatam raksha pashum rasana yayata. Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger like two red balls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him with ropes like an animal. Purport. Asvatthama's mother, Kripi, was born in the family of Gautama. The significant point in this shloka is that Asvatthama was caught and bound up with ropes like an animal. According to Sridhar Swami, Arjuna was obliged to catch this son of a Brahmana like an animal as a part of his duty, his dharma. This suggestion by Sridhar Swami is also confirmed in the later statement of Sri Krishna. Asvatthama was a bona fide son of Dronacharya and Kripi, but because he had degraded himself to a lower status of life, it was proper to treat him as an animal and not as a Brahmana. 34. Hirayam Ravabhadva Ripumbalat Paharjunam Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujekshana. After binding Asvatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Purport. Both Arjuna and Lord Sri Krishna are described here in an angry mood. But Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendence, and thus he is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because he is absolute, both his anger and pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind toward the cause of his devotee, because that is the transcendental nature. Therefore, even if he is angry, the object of anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. 35. Mainam partar hasi trautum brahma bandhum imam jahi yosabhanga shasutan avadhin nishi balakan. Lord Sri Krishna said, O Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana. Brahmabandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. Purport. The word Brahmabandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana, but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana, is addressed as the relative of a Brahmana, and not as a Brahmana. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge, but there is no harm in addressing a high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. As the high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also the post of a Brahmana is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that if good qualifications are seen in a person born in a family other than that of a Brahmana, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmana. And similarly, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana is void of Brahminical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmin, or in better terms, a relative of a Brahmin. Lord Sri Krishna, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences, and he is about to explain the reason for this in the following shlokas. Text 36. Matam pramatam unmatam suktam balam striham jadam prapanam viratam vitam naripum hanti dharmavit. A person who knows the principles of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. Purport. An enemy who does not resist is never killed by a warrior who knows the principles of religion. Formerly, battles were fought on the principles of religion, and not for the sake of sense gratification. If the enemy happened to be intoxicated, asleep, etc., as above mentioned, he was never to be killed. These are some of the codes of religious war. Formerly, war was never declared by the whims of selfish political leaders. It was carried out on religious principles free from all vices. Violence carried out on religious principles is far superior to so-called non-violence. (37) Saprananya parapranai prapusnatya granha kala tadvadhastasya hi shreya yadhosadhyatya puman. A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. Purport. A life for a life is just punishment for a person who cruelty and shamelessly lives at the cost of others' lives. Political morality is to punish a person by a death sentence in order to save a cruel person from going to hell. That a murderer is condemned to a death sentence by the state is good for the culprit, because in his next life he will not have to suffer for his act of murder. Such a death sentence for the murderer is the lowest possible punishment offered to him. And it is said in the Smriti-Shastras that men who are punished by the king on the principle of a life for a life are purified of all their sins, so much so that they may be eligible for being promoted to the planets of heaven. According to Manu, the great author of civic codes and religious principles, even the killer of an animal is to be considered a murderer, because animal food is never meant for the civilized man, whose prime duty is to prepare himself for going back to Godhead. He says that in the act of killing an animal, there is a regular conspiracy by the party of sinners. and all of them are liable to be punished as murderers, exactly like the party of conspirators who kill a human being combinedly. He who gives permission, he who kills the animal, he who sells the slaughtered animal, he who cooks the animal, he who administers distribution of the foodstuff, and at last he who eats such cooked animal food are all murderers, and all of them are liable to be punished by the laws of nature. No one can create a living being, despite all advancement of material science, and therefore no one has the right to kill a living being by one's independent whims. For the animal eaters, the scriptures have sanctioned restricted animal sacrifices only, and such sanctions are there just under which animal sacrifice is allowed in the scriptures. The procedure under which animal sacrifice is allowed in the scriptures is good both for the animal sacrificed and the animal eaters. It is good for the animal in the sense that the sacrificed animal is at once promoted to the human form of life after being sacrificed at the altar, and the animal eater is saved from the grosser types of sins, eating meats supplied by organized slaughterhouses, which are ghastly places for breeding all kinds of material afflictions to society, country, and the people in general. The material world is itself a place always full of anxieties, and by encouraging animal slaughter, the whole atmosphere becomes polluted more and more by war, pestilence, famine, and many other unwanted calamities. Text 38. Pratishrutam cha bhavata panchalya shrinvato mama aharishye shirastasya yaste manini putraha. Furthermore, I have personally heard you promise Draupadi that you would bring forth the head of the killer of her sons. 39. Tarasso vadhyatam papa atatyatma bandhuha varutuscha vipriyam vira kritavan kula pamshana. This man is an assassin and a murderer of your own family members. Not only that, but he also has dissatisfied his master. He is but the burnt remnants of his family. Kill him immediately. Purport. The son of Dronacharya is condemned here as the burnt remnants of his family. The good name of Dronacharya was very much respected. Although he joined the enemy camp, the Pandavas held him always in respect, and Arjuna saluted him before beginning the fight. There was nothing wrong in that way. But the son of Dronacharya degraded himself by committing acts which are never done by the Dvijas, or the twice-born higher castes. Asvatthama, the son of Dronacharya, committed murder by killing the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, by which he dissatisfied his master, Duryodhana, who never approved of the heinous act of killing the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas. This means that the Asvatthama became an assaulter of Arjuna's own family members, and thus he was liable to be punished by him. In the Shastras, he who attacks without notice, or kills from behind, or sets fire to another's house, or kidnaps one's wife is condemned to death. Krishna reminded Arjuna of these facts so that he might take notice of them and do the needful. Text 40. Sutta uvacha evam parikshata dharmam partha krishnena kodita nachadantum guru sutam yadhyapyatma hanam mahan. Sutta Goswami said, although Krishna, who was examining Arjuna in religion, encouraged Arjuna to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna, a great soul, did not like the idea of killing him, although Asvatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. Purport. Arjuna was a great soul undoubtedly, which is proved here also. He is encouraged herein personally by the Lord to kill the son of Droṇa. But Arjuna considers that the son of his great teacher should be spared, for he happens to be the son of Dronacharya, even though he is an unworthy son, having done all sorts of heinous acts whimsically for no one's benefit. Lord Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in the sense of his duty, nor was Lord Sri Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Lord Sri Krishna puts to the test many of his pure devotees, just to magnify the sense of duty. The gopis were put to such tests as well. Thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 41 on Friday. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Srila Bhakti Rakshakshara Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Srila Bhakti Srup Damodar Goswami Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Srila Bhakti Niyamalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnu Pad, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to our Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Sripad Bhakti Niskam Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sripad Bhakti Vigyan Muni Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Glories to Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ekachakra Dham Ki Jai, Nishingapali Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai, Jai Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakta Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Nitai Gora Hari Hari Bol.